or anywhere like that, you don't really hear things on these radio shows right now on Coast or anywhere else, or what Art Bell's station was before he quit, and then he died later. You don't hear anything about these things in this detail or exactly what happened. People will spill out a whole lot of what they think happened and believe, always a little different from each other, never lined up to be the same. So those people that are out in the world today trying to tell hidden truth with half-truths and partial truths and disagreements amongst them are already divided and conquered. They're not a threat to a classified arena. None of them are, because they don't work together. There's no force there, no power to change anything. It's just talk, talk, talk. People become aware of UFOs, and they go about their life working and paying taxes. Nothing changes. How is that a threat? Well, it's not. So, that's the way they think about this stuff. They probably thought at one time that my work was a threat because their whole system would have to change. And they probably did at one time, but what I do doesn't have anything to do with harming them. The biggest fear they have is for their own lives. They're cowards. They're selfish. Mm-hmm. Not that they mean to be. They just can't help it because they've been manipulated subconsciously by much higher technology. When they first met these beings, then they understood what was being done to them at all. Even the CIA had no idea. And it was used on them illegally by breaking an off-world treaty amongst a vast number of world systems. Mostly benevolent, a few tyrant races that came about at the end of the war 500,000 years ago in our galaxy. So that's how that happened. There's a history to all of this. The Cold War between the Soviet Union and the United States was being orchestrated as a Cold War from off-world races on this planet through manipulated leaders on this planet. Their goal was to get Hitler to annihilate 3/4 of the population, which he wanted to do, in order to have 500 million that could be easily enslaved and controlled more easily. Hitler was simply carrying out the wishes of his off-world superiors.
Which are no different than what they're talking about now, getting rid of, 95% of the population or whatever.
Well, that all came from out of Germany. It all came from SS people that were interviewed about what they were planning. Came from their connection to little grays, which, by the way, the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, United States got after the war. This little connection psychically to these little grays came with Wernher von Braun and scientists that were brought into Russia. So we inherited their little diabolical crap in our own military systems underground. Came with them. Germany lost the war, but it didn't lose the overall battle to try to get hold of this planet. If it hadn't been stopped already many times since World War II, we'd all be dead here. There wouldn't be anything on this planet alive worth fighting for.
They would have nuked each other by now, or nuked.
Of course, and they tried to. Something stopped it. Reptilians and grays and stuff would not have stopped it, but somebody else did. Every time. They didn't want to control our governments or run our planet for us, but fortunately for us, who must live on this planet for now, that was not allowed. And that's very highly classified. Governments don't want to tell their people that some other race out there, or races, stop them from having nuclear war and put their foot down. You're not going to do it.
I know, I chuckle to myself every time I hear them talk about nuclear, they're going to do this nuclear or that nuclear or something like that, using it as a threat, in order to scare the other.
Get people and finances to move in the direction they want, of course. Artificially created terror. Oh, North Korea's going to bomb us. And then Trump goes over there and shakes hands with a little fat boy. And now they're all smiling buddies. And now they just went away and evaporated. The news doesn't even talk about it. And people are so dumbed down, they don't even know that they've been hoodwinked. They don't even know that, they don't even think about, why aren't we talking about North Korea anymore? What happened? Weren't they going to just start war? Trump goes over there and all of a sudden, we're buddies.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, now let's point out Iran again. Now Iran was the bad guy right after that, and all the attention was moved over there. It's off North Korea altogether. You don't even hear it in the news, do you? No.
They don't say anything. I don't
think that's a little odd.
Yeah.
More awake people think it's odd, but most of the masses just get manipulated along, played like suckers.
It amazes me how dumbed down people are. They really are. I mean, it's sad.
I see it every day. I go to restaurants, I sit down, I look at all the people, and they haven't got a clue in hell.
I know.
Or go to Walmart. They're eating a piece of dead cow and thinking they're a body eating a piece of dead cow. That's as far down the scale of unconsciousness as you can go unless you're made into a lesser form than human. You can't go any further down the scale because people like that are not conscious of what they are at all. They're down to the level of a bottle or a bark on a tree. They're just a thing, running down. They're actually brilliant, but they don't know it. Telepathic, they don't remember it. They have a photographic memory but can't use it. Things like that. Well, I think I'll use 6 to 10% of my brain. That's what the scientists tell us on this planet. Then meanwhile, they've got 100% brain they're not using. What? What's wrong with that picture? They don't even know why when they detect the brain patterns, only 6 to 10% is firing. Or they don't think it's functioning or something. It's the most stupid bunch of people, made to be stupid bunch of people with so-called higher educations that I've ever heard of on any world talk such gibberish to other people. Human beings use 6 to 10% of their 100% developed brain. That's it. Okay, everybody go back to work, pay your taxes, shut up. We'll give you some drugs or something, dumb you down. That's it.
Add a little more fluoride to the water.
Yes, because we did it in Stalin's gulags and we've done it in Nazis' Germany, and boy, it really made those prisoners passive.
Boy, it's working in America big time.
Good for your teeth, though.
Yeah.
I got good teeth, but I don't know how to spell me. No.
That's about what it boils down to. That's pathetic.
I know. It's hilarious. We have to laugh at this stuff to stay vibrantly above it, to keep our IQs functioning, to make your synapses work on more thrusters than 6 to 10%, which we're capable of. But if you believe, to your imagination, that you're a brain and a body, you're going to use 6 to 10% of your brain, and that's all. And the brain doesn't even have anything to do with intelligence at all. It just determines how much you can get through the physical body awareness. Otherwise, the Atma is still capable of it. And if the Atma out of the body doesn't believe it, or it's been messed with to not believe it and dumb itself down to thinking it's a body, you got a real problem. Now you're trapped. And you're trapping yourself daily, or anybody else will be trapping themselves daily by not understanding what the imagination is or how to use it, because it isn't made up in the brain at all. I say this practically every time we get on any show or anything, because it bears repeating. People need to hear it many times in order to begin to understand in their own awareness as an Atma that they've been lied to and misdirected and deceived. Then they begin to uncover things unexpectedly. They begin to cross paths with people unexpectedly. Turns and events in their lives that change the direction they're headed. And beings from other worlds can help them. It's simple. There's a little guy who's already getting out of his body, talking with Terrellian, getting ready to go on a little journey.
He looks comfy. He's over there looking at us. Well, you guys gonna go pretty soon?
Yeah, he's already there. He was gone a while ago. Terrellian likes him a lot because he's not got this complicated subconscious nonsense going on. He's just 100% straight on, direct communication, no bullshit, no games kind of guy, which is like what Terrellian is too. They really don't have any fluff conversations, They just get the job done. Very direct. They're going to have fun. They have fun 100%. Then they get back to work. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. 100%. So I learned a lot from this little guy. He's not human. He's an Atma like me, but he runs a cat body. And he also can get in and out of that body and go on higher worlds. And people go, what, an animal can't do that? We're supposed to eat them. Well, who told you that? Well, my parents did, and the schools fed us that, and the governments, and the beef council, and the pig and sheep council told us that, and milk and dairy growing up. Do you really think it's right just because they all do the same thing and die of disease and get cancer and die on the farm? They don't tell you that. They don't even tell you the statistics of that on the news. They don't want to. It would scare everybody. So they keep that kind of news quite private.
Yeah.
And they do it every day.
Like
it's the way people consider they have a right to do it because it's classified. Anything to do with knowledge and understanding, knowing certainty that extraterrestrials exist, for the masses of people on this planet, to the classified governing people here, that's classified and taboo. Whatever you invent, say, do, create, or try to put out in the public that is a threat to that will be suppressed under the National Security Act.
How's that ever gonna get changed?
Not by them. They don't have the free will to do it. It's going to have to be changed by beings who work from off-world who can raise their vibration enough to get them to voluntarily get off that whole thing, because their survival is at stake. The direction they're going, they would not only end up destroying themselves and their hidden underground bases and bases on the back of the moon or Mars, wherever they think they're an escape to, they would all be dead, all of them. And the beings they made treaties with, once they got what they wanted, would have killed them all anyway. The entire elite on this planet would have been murdered violently by the very people they made a treaty with. And they were planning to do just that.
Wow.
They didn't care about human beings. They weren't respecters of human beings, and they would have murdered the elite on this planet when they were done using them. They're only alive today because of the intervention to some degree of kind beings who stopped a lot of things from happening that otherwise would have taken place. A little crash in Roswell, a little graze and all that, it was not a cover story. The weather balloon was. It really happened, but we didn't shoot it down. We got to recover the technology and some alien bodies. Immediately, that went into the first classified above top secret system under Truman. National Security Act was created 3 weeks later, including the CIA, to cover it up. Very effective. MJ-12, all that took place 3 weeks after the Roswell crash. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
You do now. Then you put the pieces together yourself, and you begin to see how this came about, what influenced them to do this, to keep the public unaware. Because the only way you can gain control of a planet is you've got to kill off the overpopulation and get the resources done and shipped off with less resistance. Who gives about anything about a stinking treaty if you can control the whole planet and its leaders? You're done. Tyrants don't come to other worlds in ships and blow up all their industry and all their people. That's all Hollywood. Tyrants who are space travel capable are more smart than that. They'll misuse technology to get control of an elite, snooty people on the planet without their awareness. Then they'll get them to control elected people and them the people. That's how they work. They're after resources. They don't give a crap about human beings or, running a planet. Heck, if they wanted to run this planet, they would definitely murder 3/4 of the population right up front, first day. Disintegrate their bodies and get rid of them all. That's how they think. That's how they did think anyway, until recently.
Wow.
So
that's diabolical for sure.
It is, but they're changing. Here's the thing people don't realize in Coast to Coast and people in the UFO community and all that disclosure, they never stop to ask the right questions. They don't get off-world really themselves, so they really don't have the objective capability to expand their consciousness and look at it from above, beyond, not in, part of. Or they'd see how easily they're being manipulated, divided and conquered. You can't get two people in the UFO community to work together for disclosure. They're all on their own selfish little trip, and they won't do it. They're busy stabbing each other and talking behind each other's backs and all that. It's nonsense. I stay completely out of it. Wasting my time.
You see that kind of thing in a lot of different areas where it gets to be a competition thing rather than work together thing.
And they don't realize they're really doing it. They justify this, they justify that. It's their book sales, it's this, it's that. I need money, I got to have a house, whatever they say or do, they're being manipulated, subconsciously manipulated. I know the best protection for any of that is to be consciously aware that it is actually being done. Because if you doubt it and don't believe it could be done to you, your government wouldn't do it, you wouldn't be lied to. Anybody that far down the scale of awareness is too far down to get up. They're too controlled to even think for themselves, and they don't. So, people can sit around all day at lunch and have intelligent so-called conversations during work with their coworkers and talk about the most banal, superficial, horseshit garbage you ever heard in. They don't even talk about anything that matters. And then they go back to work and, they're stuck. They're alive on a planet for a number of years doing absolutely nothing.
On the hamster wheel of life.
To find out who they are, how they got to be here. They don't remember. Everybody on the planet knows something was done to them somewhere that made them forget everything. There's not a person on this planet, if they're really honest with themselves, would tell you that's not true for them. You take away all the fear of hell and damnation, and you ask a person honestly without those subconscious influences, and they'll tell you something was done to them. They can't remember. That put them here with no memory. But you got to take away the fear and terror that says, don't talk about this, I can't go there, it's too scary. That's got to be put aside first. You're never going to make it. No one's ever going to make any real headway. The beings I know are quite good at knowing how to do this, but they walk a fine line, because if they just do it to everybody on Earth, they've acted like tyrants in giving freedom back to them. Those people have been so tied up in knots subconsciously for more than this lifetime, long periods of history, in many incarnations. And if you throw all that back on a person that has a nervous system of a body on Earth that has certain genomes shut down, so energy gets blocked and doesn't come through, it'll burn that person out. Their own being would burn that body out. They'll die. You can't set a person free that way. That's not how these implants were created. They were created so you wouldn't be able to do it, or you would die. So I have to do this carefully. The beings I work with know how to do this. And it takes the rehabilitation, the raising in vibration of energy. It's higher energy that needs to be brought into the body to change this. And if you don't have access to that higher energy, you aren't changing anything down here. Second of all, they need a person to be co-creatively involved with them and awake enough to go into the process so that they're respected as autonomous beings. And most people on Earth think they need to worship some supreme being they know they're never supposed to be able to meet and not smart enough to know about. Take it all on faith until they die, and don't smell the roses. Don't dare look to see if there's thorns in what you're being fed.
Oh, yeah.
That's how tyrants rule. Through religions, from tyrant kings. And our history's full of examples of that. It's no different today. It's just socially smoother and cleaner looking and feeling than it was. It's still throw you to the lions if you get in their way, so to speak. So, it's that kind of thing. It's just covered up with niceties, but it's really the same thing. There's still tyrants off-world trying to influence things here. Until recently, they still were. Now they're not allowed to. Which means the people that are running things are running on automatic subconscious terrorizing fear-based programs in the direction that is destructive, and they can't stop it or help themselves. You don't need a reptilian or some tyrant race here underground anymore to get us to do that, because the programs are already there. You got to get those knots untied and those programs gone in all the people of this planet for it to step up and take its place among the stars. And go out in technology and ships that are given to us to go out and play there. We can't do that and not be, we have to be trusted to do that. People on Earth, I don't care how classified, how many PhDs they get. The way people are on Earth today, they're not going to be allowed to do it because they're not trustworthy. They are destructive. The mindset of military people would go out there with reverse engineered spaceships or battle cruisers and fire at the first alien they met. And because they're just thinking in this way, as like a reptilian commander. Kill first, ask questions later. Dominate first before you're dominated. That's their thinking. And it's asked backwards because there's no real threat out there anymore. That's been taken care of. Now we got the problem of global warming and the ocean rises, sea temperature going up, sealing in the CO2, keeping infrared from going in space, and you got a whole world change that will kill everybody on this planet. Except an elite that can live underground, a few million, maybe max on the whole planet out of 7.5 billion. Unless you're on the backside of the moon or on Mars somewhere, who would want to live like that? You know, in some world with no oxygen in a dome, and that's your life, that's it. No blue skies, no waterfalls anymore, no animals, nothing. I pity those people. You think I envy them for wanting to save their own ass? If push comes to shove and let the rest of humanity be killed off in a violent way, that's the way they think. It's the classified people that get sent to a wormhole to another planet if everybody else is destroyed to save humanity from its best and most elite. They aren't the best or most elite. They're just the ones that were privileged to know the truth. They're not smarter than anybody else, and they're leaving the great gene pool of brilliance shut down on Earth to be killed. They would not survive such a change in the long run. They would all die off. And they would be supremely vulnerable to even the smallest tyrant race out in the universe, in little cultural places like that. They would not survive it. People would take advantage of it who aren't from Earth.
Well, that paints a pretty undesirable picture.
Well, it does paint an undesirable picture for the elite who think they're getting away with something. Number one, they can't play among the stars and other worlds and galaxies, and then amongst the spacefaring races that are here in a huge organization of kind worlds, because we aren't, and they won't allow it. And they're not going to allow it, ever, the way we are now, ever. You're going to let a bunch of lying lawyers and rat bastards go out among the stars with their finger on buttons and go play on their planets and take their resources? Not hardly. They're far more advanced than people here. And they're not tyrants. Who's going to determine the outcome of that one? Not people from Earth. I don't care what technology they've reverse engineered, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? It's tinker toys compared to what's out there. Tinker toys. They've only been working with the most antiquated extraterrestrial technology under treaty anyway since World War II. So what do they think they have? A ship that can go in a couple planets with anti-gravity drive? Woo, whoopee. It's not going to get you across the stars and faster than light travel and all that. And if they can use it, they're blocked from going outside the solar system, and they're going to stay quarantined until they get their head out of their ass.
How do we get that to happen?
We on Earth don't do that. But we as boots on the ground can co-creatively help that happen if you get your head out of revenge. Because that's a misuse of the imagination. It sends out a negative frequency, ties through the satellites, and they've got you. Stimulating the primary program to stay strong in you, and then you run around in fear all the rest of your life, not daring to look at truth. They know that. And that's not going to work much longer, and they know that too. I'm talking about the most classified people here. I don't care if they're a damn trillionaire or billionaire, who the hell cares? It's artificially created nonsense, digits in a computer, it's worthless. It only has value because people are brainwashed to accept it as having value. There's no gold or silver or platinum or terrenium or whatever behind it whatsoever. Not just our country, any country. And people will exchange this bark from a tree pressed into paper with ink on it all day long and be controlled by it without realizing it actually has no value whatsoever.
Have you heard of this quantum financial system that they've been talking about?
I don't get into that in my talks, and I won't.
I don't know if that.
I don't get into debating these things. Let other people do it. Introduce someone else. It's a waste of my time, and people I work with will not deal with politics, money systems, or anything like that. I don't even charge. I don't have any monetary system tied to what I do. In private sessions, group sessions to help them get free. With this show with you, there's no money involved.
Well, I wouldn't be able to do it if there was.
If I had an ulterior motive for pushing some kind of quantum blah, 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 financial this, what a joke that is. Take quantum physics and make it about money.
Yeah, it's some kind of.
All that stuff. Bitcoins is just money.
That's
It's exactly the same thing as money. There's no difference. It's the same illusion. It's using digits in a computer to buy and sell things because people are brainwashed to believe it has value. It has no value. There's nothing behind it except that they're Bitcoins. The people that are ahead of these people playing this game are way beyond them. They're controlling. You know who owns the stock for Bitcoins out of Japan, where it was invented and all that stuff? Take a good guess of who owns majority share of the stock and outcome of those kinds of investments. Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. Who do you think owns them? The guy's worth a couple hundred extra billion from the Bitcoin thing alone in digits. They're not stupid. It's just getting people to play. And they say, well, let's go to bartering. Well, what if somebody has, by the way, I don't blame Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or any of these guys for what they're doing because they don't know what they're doing. They just think they do. And they've been brainwashed to do what they're doing against their better judgment. And I'll say it right on this radio show because down deep, they know it's true. They're just playing a game. They're cooperating with other people in power. That's how they keep their digits, so to speak. I don't blame them. It's not a game you can go up against and win. If the whole planet's run with money, you've got everybody brainwashed. Then you got to play the game, or you don't have your money. Pretty simple. So think about it. A phenomenon happens on Earth. Somebody invents something called Bitcoin out of Japan. And who are the first people to buy up all the shares in order to make all the potential money on it later? You don't blink at me like you don't know. You do know. You know how many advisors and lawyers these people can afford to hire in Wall Street or anywhere else? Who's going to get the first best shot at capturing a market in some potential phenomenal run on buying and selling things like Bitcoins or other coins? Who do you think?
Everyone that's got the money in the first place.
There you go. 10 million would have bought all the shares in Bitcoins right at the start of it starting to climb. Boom, they would have owned them all. They just sell them right out of Microsoft and whatever. Did you know Microsoft and Apple are the two people that will take Bitcoins for money for their products? Why do you think that is?
Gee, I wonder.
It's in plain sight right in people's face, but they never ask the right questions. They don't look in the right place. They don't follow the money. They don't look because they're part of it. They don't dare know the truth because then they will not want to do what they're doing. It's disillusioning, right? So that's the nature of things on planet Earth. I'm not a threat to these people. I don't care about how many digits they have. I don't want their digits. I don't threaten their lives. People I know won't. But I can tell you that what's underway and what's coming here that cannot be stopped by any of them is destined to change this world. And they better get ready for that because all the money in the world and power in the military will not prevent what's coming. Not anymore. It's not about killing people or putting an elite up against the wall and shooting them or having a witch hunt and a trial and all of that stuff because they don't know what they're doing. They've been manipulated. They know it more than you know it. They know they were manipulated, but they can figure out how to stop it or what to do about it. All this time since World War II has been about how do they get out of it secretly from this control. Little chips under the skin, that was their experimentation on Earth with microcircuitry to try to reverse that, counter it. And they used their own populace as guinea pigs to try to find out what would and would not work.
Probably.
That's how it really was, okay? What's nice about, and the reason I do this is not to scare people. They're already stuck on this planet. That's not just going to go away through wishful thinking. The beauty of it is they've already been taken as far down the scale of unconscious as they can without becoming a plant or an animal.
That's
I'm
kind
not kidding.
of,
And,
that's so
you know,
sad.
there's the only way they've got to go on this earth is up.
We're down as far as we could go, right?
I've been down so long, when I look up, I see tread marks. You know, tread marks.
Oh my God. Yes. Well,
People
that's
that
good.
don't know are left with belief in some savior, and I'm not being insulting, I'm not trying to be insulting to anyone on this earth or what they believe. I respect that. But I also see how it's keeping them quite dumbed down, ignorant, when they have the brilliance, potential to wake up higher faculties and be brilliant beings. But they can't do it but by relying on placating some God somewhere. They can't see, can't touch, and don't think they'll ever really know personally because it's just too beyond them, whatever that is. And thinking like that is a self-limitation put out into the omnipresent living first sound behind all creation, what they call divine spirit, to come and clamp itself on you because you've asked it to unconsciously. It's reciprocal. It will bring to you what you imagine in it, good or bad. It is a universal supporter of all that exists. What we do with it, that's another thing. Tyrants don't want you to learn that there's a cause and effect relationship to what you imagine. That they'll tell you the law of physics is that every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. Whatever you put out mentally, emotionally, measure on an oscilloscope, comes back. Did you know all the negative thoughts and deeds done on this planet, murders and everything else in history, are still recorded in the atmosphere of this world? Because they bounce off the ionosphere and just keep bouncing around here like a ping pong machine, ping pong or pinball machine or something. That's why you can send a radio signal over the curvature of the earth. It bounces off the ionosphere and goes down the curve of the world. Nothing's left this planet. The thoughts and fears and terrors are all here. People have them programmed artificially, subconsciously in what people call the subconscious mind, an artificially created manipulation. And then what's outside of them reinforces that in their society and their news and everything else. So how are they going to get out of it?
Good question.
And yet we're having this conversation, you and me, right now, against all odds. Anyway, how is that possible? There's a part of you and a part of listeners and a part of me that has always had, and I keep saying this, mastery or dominance over any form of negativity, negative thoughts and feelings, negative beings in or out of bodies, Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call it, or over any negative misuse of advanced non-terrestrial technology. Because you aren't made of molecules and matter like all that is. What a being is not atomic. It's not nuclear in nature. It's not I don't want to speak Bush. Nuclear. It's nuclear. No, it's nuclear.
Yeah, it sounds a lot.
Nuclear.
I know what you mean.
Anyway, what the real being is that isn't the body is spherically shaped. Like a sun or a moon or a planet. People don't stop to think, why are they all shaped round? They just take for granted that's the way it is, but there's a reason. Beings who are round in original form, non-physical, but energy, but not known on Earth, create moons and suns and planets and stars and galaxies and hold them in place. Beings do that, not material bodies. First thing that people need to be aware of. If they're ever going to meet such beings and be kindly offered the opportunity to work with such beings, then they have to be able to be trustworthy to use their imagination in a kind way towards all life respectfully as well. Or they're going to remain ignorant as a brick.
You know, it's a good thing that you say that about that you have power over negativity, the being, the Etma. Because it's funny because just the other day I was feeling, I was getting these negative vibes or what have you. And I remember that concept or that very thought that you have power over that came to me.
But see, maybe this will help you. The subconscious, what people call the subconscious mind here, is not known by the best PhD psychiatrists, psychologists, parapsychologists, reverse hypnosis regression therapists. Yes, I know all these terms. And they're working in theory. They themselves, for the most part, not all, but most, don't know from experience what it is they're doing. They've just got patterns they can repeat to try to get a person out of a chronic schizophrenic or other behavior. They don't know what causes, they don't know where it comes from, and they keep applying drugs to the brain to correct what is not in the brain. They don't understand that the mind and mental and emotional states of a being living in a body on earth don't come from this dimension. And they're never going to get it right thinking the way they are, that it's all matter, protons, electrons, and neutrons, and brain cells. No, that's a machine. It's a carbon-based double-stranded DNA with genomes programmed on it that runs at 98.7 degrees Fahrenheit that beings run. And that's what it is. It's not the being. A human body won't even move without a being running it. So you got all these atmas running around, running bodies all day on Earth, thinking this is it. This is the only body they have, and it's only on this planet, in this one dimension of the parallel dimension of the physical reality, and that's all there is. And God is somewhere way up there in heaven. He's a tyrant, you know.
He would have to be for some of the things.
Blind worship, but no real experience for you. People swallow that and have been swallowing that hook, line, and sinker for thousands upon thousands of years, orchestrated by tyrant emperors controlling a priestcraft. 100%. And that was all influenced in one situation or scenario or another amongst extraterrestrial races, most of them benevolent, but not all. Under treaty, they could bring to have small colonies here or mine for something, human slaves, the bad guys. Under treaty, the good guys could produce Lemuria, or for a time what people thought of as Atlantis. And then the cultures far before that, many millions of years that have been here and come and gone. Classify the polar shifts of this planet. That'll scare people. They won't rebuild a damaged world after World War II. Do you know how they found out in the classified arena that the poles of this planet flip? Outside of the esoteric people that knew it?
No.
Under Dayton, under Gorbachev, a group of Soviet and American scientists got together, and they did not tell the people why, but they, under Dayton, they said, hey, we're getting along. We got this thing we're doing. They were using oil technology to drill in the deepest places on Earth, Siberia, Death Valley, Arabian Desert, whatever you want to call it, in China in the Gobi Desert. And they would go down several thousand feet, several miles, and pull out these, and we're looking for oil, these compacted dirt and chop them into discs, put them in a centrifuge. The principle is that when lava cools, it aligns itself to the magnetic north of the planet, the crystalline matrix of it. They know this from testing the volcanic lava that comes out of the big crater on Hawaii, because when it cools, it aligns itself to the magnetic fields. So they dug down. Something turned them on to this, probably some ETs of some kind, telling them to go look at something. I'll just tell you, hint, hint, that's my guess. Try to help them make better choices, and they're too stupid, just too caught up in it to even do anything about it. So they find out, this is a group effort under détente with the Soviet and American scientists doing these core sample things and findings. And they could compare it to the cooling lava out of the big volcanic area in Hawaii or some other volcano. And they find that up to about 100 to 120,000 years ago, the poles of this planet, poles and magnetic fields, were 180 degrees opposite of what they are today. And they announced that the next day when these findings came out on primetime television, 35 years ago, whenever the Gorbachev thing was happening, the fall of the Soviet Union. And then they classified it and yanked it from the TV and radio stations because I couldn't get a copy of that show. I tried. Because they found out that as they drilled more, that it was cyclic. Uh-oh, There's extra something. Oh, got to classify it. That's it. It was gone, taken off the world. Done. In Russia and here, everywhere. Britain, you name it. They found out the poles change, and we were due for one back then. You're going to tell people the poles are about to change. Classify it. Keep everybody working. Try to figure out a solution, that kind of thinking. So that took place on this planet. People don't know, haven't got a clue today about it at all. The Russia, Putin knows about it, obviously. The United States, certain people certainly know about it. Most of the military do not. And a very elitely classified group does.
The military do not?
No. Just certain ones they want to know for whatever reason. That's what classification does.
Compartmentalizes everything.
Yeah, because you get people to build parts for an alien spaceship we have housed in a hangar out in the backside of the mountain at Area 51 that aren't from this planet, and our military industrial complex makes parts for their ships. And we're not even allowed, our generals, to go inside the hangar we made for them to see how they retrofit those parts or how they work. So we can get old technology from the aliens that they throw us a bone. And the generals are like little puppy dogs wagging their tail trying to get this stuff. They're being used, hoodwinked, scallywagged, laughed at, snickered at. And their end result for being there is not kind to human beings on any world. They have an ulterior motive, obviously. Any race that wants to keep their existence secret from people on Earth is up to no damn good. Okay, so that, considering that what I've shared with you today is true, and it is, what do people on Earth do about it? Well, not a damn thing. If they're so dumbed down and unwilling to change to know what it is that happened to them that put them on this earth with no memory or little, vulnerable to believe whatever's taught to them from the time they grew up in their societies on this planet. You're not going to get a mass of people here changing this direction by themselves. I would have to say that out in Galactic History 101, on other world systems where the industry and advancement of the races on those planets were beginning to travel space, and they were at a point of people not getting along in their own world where they would annihilate themselves. Right before that happened, in many cases, a race from the stars or somewhere else would intervene, enlighten them, and that race would become a member of that organization one day. In our solar system, because of where it is that it came under the treaty 500,000 years ago at the end of a great galactic war here, there hasn't been one here since 500,000 years in our galaxy, but there's been a kind of Cold War, for sure. Tyrants will break a treaty any way they can short of going to war, because if they went to another war, planets like Earth and others would be destroyed, but they would be defeated again. They know that, so they sneak around. Ships get shot down. It's never the people behind little grays. It's the little grays that pay the price. Expendable losses, justifiable losses. That's what that's called. So you've got a bunch of little grays running around abducting people, and did for many years until that was stopped. You heard it. It's not going on anymore. Hasn't been for several decades. People are talking about old stories of people that were abducted way back when. And they're still perpetuating that as if it's current time. Falls right into the control of an industrial complex to keep people ignorant. They love that kind of stuff. Because it still keeps everything going the way they want it, classified. They know they're going to have to tell people the truth. You know, it was part of the original Majestic 12, what people call Majestic 12. And I'm not being supportive of that or negative towards it. I'm just saying that whatever that group was under Truman, it was originally designed to tell people the whole disclosure from its inception when they felt people were ready. They just got caught up in this private banking system and keep it outside of Congress and support these national security interests about extraterrestrial technology to compete with other countries. And people can't know about it because it's too dangerous and we're dealing with aliens, good and bad, blah, blah, blah. It just got away. It's been carried away too far. They've been caught in their own system and they don't know how to get off it because they have to tell the truth when they've been lying. Now,
How do you explain it?
you asked a question, how do you solve this? We on Earth cannot. But there's those of us on Earth that are aware and co-creating with beings from other worlds that can. That know how to do this, have done it on other worlds, and know how to save a place, to turn it around, neutralize toxins, disintegrate nuclear weapons and radioactive isotopes, put them back into a balanced isotope state, a piece of cake for them. So they're not radioactive anymore. Put them back in the ground, turn them into other products, whatever, that's easy. Clear up a polluted water table, the oceans, the air, piece of cake. Get rid of microorganisms that were around billions of years ago competing with this form, come from other worlds that will compete with you and kill you or give you disease or cancer or whatever. They got rid of that microscopic competitive life with higher forms a long time ago. Stuff that's been around for billions of years before these forms were even made, still competing with these forms makes no sense, except where it's done deliberately on Earth, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So all that has to be given up just so we can become normal and start moving in a new direction. As a planetary culture, as a people among so many others, to make friends and to be given technology at no cost, no monetary system, mind you. How are you going to give all that to people on Earth if they're just going to try to manipulate it under someone's financial control and just destroy themselves with it? They're not going to do it that way. Of course they're not. You wouldn't, I wouldn't. That means there are certain criteria that we have to go through a change about on this world in order to acquire that, given to us freely. There's a lot of bright PhD people out there that are forced to work or kept working in the academic community that talk about theory this and theory that. That's all they know. And they don't know what their peers in the classified arena actually know about extraterrestrials. And those people can't tell them because, you know, if you do, off with your head. It's really sad that so many bright people are kept so stupid by an elite group of people who don't even know how to stop doing what they don't want to do anymore. Ooh, that's big news. They don't want to do it. They just don't know how to do it. So they're going to have to be a little humble and respectful. And as they get over their fear of being commanded by some alien race who wants to come down and take us over, they already know that's not going to happen. That was the plan, but that's already been nipped in the bud. They know that. They just don't know how to tell the people the truth. My work is partially designed to help that happen. I came to this world more than 60 years ago to begin that process. And it was intercepted. It was a different time then. I was put in this body with no memory when it was 3. I didn't come here voluntarily. Well, I did, but I didn't come here voluntarily to be here in this form. And I had to work myself out of that unconscious state for 35 years, working in the hue and getting out and doing stuff to recover much that was deliberately suppressed in the artificially created subconscious domain. The subconscious domain is not in the brain, first of all. How are you going to understand what the subconscious mind is if you think that the being that is alive is the brain in a human body? It isn't. That's going to defeat you right from the start. You're looking in the wrong place. If a being is spherically shaped and it was this structure of energy, not matter, not protons, not neutrons, not the law of physics in the physical universe as certainly non-classified scientists think of it, that kind of physics doesn't even apply to higher frequencies of matter that are faster than the speed of visible light that their eyes can detect. How stupid is that thinking? So ignorant. Well, you can't go faster than the speed of light. Well, gee, maybe if I stay in this plane of molecular time rate, I can see with my physical eyes a small spectrum of light, and you can't go faster than that. Wait a minute, what if I go up here in this frequency? And it's already going many times faster than the speed of light. If you have eyes and ears to see and hear and know this stuff, you can developed sciences based on it, like anti-gravity propulsion, going through wormholes to vast distances across time and space, short-circuiting the whole space-time continuum. How are you going to figure out how to do that thinking from here when you got to think from here to see it? You can't. Okay? So it's that kind of thinking, that deception. And the second thing is, and they know this too, lying and deceit, even justified for the security of any country, is negative in nature. It cannot, under any circumstances, be anything but negative, because it is covert, it's deception, it's deceit, it's lying, it's negative. And it produces repercussions in time space that are negative upon the people who do it. They die of cancer, their families get sick, somebody takes over their power position, they inherit the trillions. They don't live forever. They can't even apply advanced technology to have immortalized bodies thinking like that. It does not work. They know that now too, by the way.
They do?
Yeah, you cannot make a body live forever thinking and being and imagining negative things and lording it over your fellow beings. It is self-neutralizing. Because the same people will think good things about their own wife and family, but they'll lie to everybody else. Tell you to your face they're telling the truth just to keep something classified. And there's two streams of energy going out from that person, not the body, not the brain. One is saying to this omnipresent force they call the God particle they found in the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. They don't know what it does. It doesn't quite obey the laws of physics. They don't understand it, but it's behind everything. It's not protons and electrons and atoms. So they just call it the God particle. Oh, how nice and respectful of them. You know, but a being that runs a human body is made of that energy. It isn't nuclear. You can't split the atom. You can't blow it up with a hydrogen bomb. You can't hit it with a laser. You can't psychotronically try to manipulate it. The only thing you can do with that is manipulate artificial negative programs in a field of energy that's artificially created around this other energy through which it looks and sees and perceives things in a misdirected manner. How can psychologists and psychiatrists on earth ever understand anything without knowing the truth themselves? And it's all recoverable, reversible. Huh. Who knew, right?
Wow.
People that are in power today on earth have had several key concerns. How do we survive telling people the truth so we don't get lynched? Number one, self-preservation. How do we do it and remain happy and live our lives and get everybody else starting in a new direction on earth? Well, you can't do it if everybody's full of hatred and revenge. No matter if they were eaten by a reptilian or eaten and killed and put in a body here and put an implant around them and shoved them in a body, told to forget. The Atma is not something that can be destroyed or altered in any way. It can be tricked into using its power of higher faculty to believe it's entrapped and create this from its own energy field around it. And this omnipresent living force that supports all life will just come and fill whatever you imagine it. It's not what people think. It just isn't. We have to be responsible as Atmas, as godly persons made of this same energy of what we call the prime creator, the source from other worlds, who know what it really is, who have the ability to go to it and comprehend it, because they're doing it from a spherical structure, layer energy being that can comprehend multi-dimensions. The brain can't do that. It's not designed to do it. I will say this stuff because when I do, it will ring a bell in people that's long been purposefully, deliberately suppressed. And it'll begin to unravel and knot, and they'll get help out of night. At night when they're out of their bodies, when they're in a higher state of consciousness, free from the shutdown genomes on DNA that limit higher faculties from coming through the brain, people will get this. And they'll bring it back in the morning. They'll start remembering a whole lot of stuff. That's how this works. So it's careful. so they live an even more balanced physical life through this enlightening process. Not starving, trucks all not getting to the stores, and money's disappeared and all that nonsense. No one's going to do it that way. Not even tyrants. It defeats their purpose of having slaves to do their work for them. It's just not
practical.
If you can get people to believe the threat's there, then you can control them through the fear. If you can get them to see that's an illusion, you can't control them. And they won't put up with lying anymore, or financial systems or anything else, because they're outlawed outside of this planet. You really think we're going to go in spaceships with a US flag with anti-gravity glows around them, out with our big spaceship with our American flag, and go out to their worlds and are telling them how they're going to do business for us with radioactive warp cores and nuclear weapons? No, we're never going to be allowed to use them. We're not even allowed to use them on the surface of this planet anymore.
Thank God for that.
There's just a bunch of bombs rusting in bomb casings that can't even be used. It's a threat over the people. They know they can't have that nuclear war. They've tried.
They still
No
use
one's going to tolerate it. You're told that in the press. There was a bomb set off underground in North Korea. How the hell do any of us know that?
Yeah.
Even scientists that detect a tremor under there. Okay, so what? It's a little low-yield atomic bomb underground. They've been banned for decades worldwide from being tested in our atmosphere because we just kill ourselves with the radiation. This whole planet is radioactive. From the idiots that blew these things up in the atmosphere before they realized they were going to kill everybody without a nuclear war, just testing them.
Yeah.
Half-life particles, half a million years, radioactive.
And they just do it anyway.
Cancer went through the roof when they started testing nuclear bombs in our own atmosphere. Worldwide.
Probably not in one of the safest places for that.
Well, I don't worry about nuclear war. This is 2019. Where's the big North Korean blue bombs going off? Oh, look out.
I just mean they used to do a lot of testing in this area. They talk about that sometimes.
And did you know you still can't go anywhere near that area? It's radioactive. You can't go on the test range in wherever you are, Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
It's like trying to get into Area 51. You can't do it.
Yeah.
It didn't go away because they stopped doing it. The ground is radioactive. You don't want to go anywhere near it. They store nuclear waste down there. It's already radioactive. Who the hell cares, according to the way they think? Good place to put it. The dummies didn't ever stop to think that they should use a science to neutralize imbalanced isotopes they make in the first place.
Yeah, that would have been nice, you know?
Yeah, just send a beam at it and turn it back to what it was before you screwed with it, right?
Yeah, that would
No
make
more
sense.
radioactive than anything. But did they
Like,
do that? No. I don't think they even know how to do it. If they do, they never spent the money in that direction, which is the first thing you should have done, you know, before you even use it.
yeah, like creating a deadly poison and not having any antidote.
It's the way they thought, you know, at the end of World War II, just coming out of fighting Hitler and Japan and all this stuff. And the nuclear threat in 1947, there's bombs going off in both countries and testing hydrogen bombs and on islands in Fiji and French Polynesia and blah, 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 boom, 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 up in the atmosphere. They would have killed all life here in a few more years of that. We wouldn't even have to have a war. That's how dumbed down and misdirected they were, without even knowing it was being done to them. They know now it was. They just don't know how to get off it, how to change it. So they're going to need help from people from out of town that are kind, loving, incredibly advanced, not tyrants, to help us do it. Simple as that, but we got to ask for it. When I first came here, I was going to approach the leaders of this world to ask them to do just that. They would have turned me down. Another group came here, and they were in Washington, D.C., and they were turned down, scared to death of telling the people the truth back then, 1950s and so. So they went away and basically said, we'll come back when you're more ready. Well, tyrants were also allowed to visit here and offer things, breaking a treaty, like technology to do DNA experiments, to abduct people. Eisenhower would never have agreed to that. Generals wouldn't have, but they were manipulated by device these visitors wore, compelled them to do it. They blackmailed the former Soviet Union premier there and us here at the same time against each other and said, if you don't do this treaty with us for extraterrestrial technology, we don't care if you give up your nuclear weapons. And we'll give it to the Soviet Union. They were over there saying the same thing to them at the same time. And they were caught. Eventually, they were caught. Under treaty, diplomats could meet both good and bad with these leaders, classified. Mm-hmm. But they did more than just meet. They tried to do other sneaky things. Sometimes their ships were shot down in our atmosphere, not by us, not by our military on this earth. If you get the drift. Mm-hmm. You don't come out and tell people that's going on in your skies. If you want them to rebuild a damaged world after World War II and make babies and be baby boomers and pay taxes, you just don't do it. And in Russia, they didn't want to do that with their people either. China, they're all the same. Today, these countries are much more willing to, in Russia and China and here, to disclose. They would do it faster, except they're scared of the outcome, rioting in the streets and all that. What they're beginning to understand is that the masses of people on this planet, the majority of them, are already prepared. They're not going to riot in the street. They're just going to go and work and pay taxes and continue until it all changes. They're not like they used to be 20 and 30 and 40 years ago. They've had lots of time to watch Hollywood movies, good and bad, about extraterrestrials and TV shows to be still stuck where they were, you know, in War of the Worlds with the radio guy that scared everybody and got on and said, there's aliens coming down here and all of that. That was another time. That was an era when people were just coming out of World War II, and now there's nuclear bombs and the threat of them. And there's the Soviet Union and communism. And this is what they were thinking. So aliens and extraterrestrials got to be bad too. You know, there's something, you know. Ooh.
Fear, fear, fear.
So they classified this. Classification really officially started in World War II to keep secret the fact that the Enigma machine, which is a code writing machine the Nazis developed, that the British and the US broke that code and were able to read the orders being given from Nazi Germany to generals, which is why they outhooked and outwinked them, because the Nazis didn't know we'd broken the code. That's where classification, not telling people, really started. D-Day, highly classified, when they're going to launch, all that kind of thing. And then the Nazis were already doing classified things with an elite. So when we inherited them in the Soviet Union and the United States, they brought that expertise of how to do that to keep people dumbed down with them. And since they were pardoned, they were used as consultants to train or teach our people how they do it even at a more sophisticated level. We had TV now, radio. First person to broadcast a live TV event was Nazi Germany in the Olympics, one of the Olympics. They had the technology. They didn't develop it because they were smarter than scientists elsewhere. They got it given to them illegally from off planet. That is something people will need to become aware of at some point. But it has to be done in a way, practically speaking, that will not result in rioting in the streets. It's not productive. It's not going to, there's not going to be an Armageddon on this planet that was prophesied thousands of years ago or something, Nostradamus or whatever. Back then when they saw the future, that's what would have happened. But that has been permanently changed. The actual Armageddon prophesied destructive future for this planet has been altered permanently in recent years, but not by us on this world.
Thank goodness for that.
Trump being president, he was never expected to win in recorded prophesized history. I'm not touting the guy. I'm saying that something happened that changed the direction this planet was headed. Unexpected to everyone. And there's more coming.
There's more of that happening on a regular basis now.
Exactly, there is. What I do in my work and with friends from out of town, when I mean off planet, from higher dimensions or the realities of the worlds, is aimed at bringing about an unexpected uplifting transformation for this world for the first time. And not just planet Earth, many other worlds and many other realities too is underway. So this thing we call evil was considered to be evil as an experiment at one time. Put into the lower dimensions to see how people would utilize it. At one point, they started running positive and negative streams split into two currents that are one above the void known to most Buddhists in the upper dimensions. And then it split it right through the consciousness of a person. They started imagining negative, positive ways at the same time. Pretty soon they were trapped, neutralized, grounded to bodies. And all you got to do is get an atma to forget that Stephen knows what the imagination is, and now they're doing it on automatic, and tyrants can control them. So that's what we're waking up, reversing. And it's done when people are out of their bodies at night, because everybody leaves their body at night when they put it in the trance state we call sleep. That's right, everybody's an expert on Earth.
They don't even know it.
It's the being, not the body, that puts the body to sleep. It causes the pineal gland, the controlling gland in the center of the brain, to secrete melatonin, creates serotonin, creates chemicals which keep the body running on automatic, heart working, blood pumping, lungs breathing while you're out, gone. There's a telepathic link to the center of that pineal gland to that body that is not breakable by any kind of misuse of technology because it isn't molecular. It's nuclear. No, it's nuclear. Not nuclear either. Anyway, and then we go out and we play among the stars and other realities because we're constantly doing it to learn how to be conscious co-creators with the source behind all life, which is not a tyrant god that ever required we worship it, put it on a pedestal, or give it favors, or it will strike us in the ass with lightning. That's nonsense. Only tyrants demand that for money, power, fame, or fortune, or just because they love the game of dominating other races. Some of them, it's just a game because they themselves have been more deeply perverted, manipulated, implanted than we have in galactic history by even more diabolical races. It compels them to behave the way they are. When you wake up to this fact yourself, anger and fear, doubt, speculation and theory, revenge, they all drop away from you because they are artificially created negative emotional states that are not actually part of being a normal human being. They aren't part of a human being. They're artificially created to control human beings. So once you hear this, you can begin to go down the road of discovering this for yourself. You're already on the road to recovering who you are and acquiring back all that you were made to forget without your consent in some history you don't remember. When I go into the hue or the first sound behind all creation, which is a fail-safe and has been there since before the lower dimensions were even created. Big Bang Theory? Are you kidding me? The universe exists as a prototype to create things in the four lower dimensions in worlds above what the Buddhists know as the void. They think that's, I don't blame them. They think that's the end. There's nothing beyond it because they don't know how to imagine what's beyond it. They don't remember. There's many dimensions beyond that void. And things are created there and tested in the lower worlds. And if they come back true, necessary, and kind, those three prerequisites, everybody gets fired up about it in the other worlds, the higher gods, whatever you call it, and they implement it down here. Nothing has been brought back up there that's new in billions of years. So this experiment of evil and good and bad, one winning over the other all through eternity, people getting stuck in bodies, reincarnating, not remembering, has been going on automatic for a very long time. It's a failed experiment.
It's time to do away with it.
To wake up to this and be free from it, a person has to accept responsibility for their little part in the creation of evil as an experiment. Why? Because as Atmas, we were at the beginning. We weren't made in space and time. We are part of a drop of pure energy out of this mighty ocean of it, people call the Supreme Being. And we have the same individualized capabilities as that on a smaller scale. Exactly. We're down in these worlds to discover how to be a co-creator with that. Not a co-slave or co-worshiper or something like this. Co-creator. We're meant to come back to that source at some point with all we've learned from all the trials and tribulations in order to contribute new ways of doing things that we've come up with from all that struggle. That's really the purpose of a human being is, to be a co-creator with that source. Tyrants don't want you knowing that. Oh, heck no. Here's the thing. People are finding it out anyway. That's also part of disclosure, but it's part of my disclosure. It's part of the beings I work with. And they're going to disclose it whether people on Earth want it or not.
Yes, good.
Because the right to play with evil and dominate other races is not actually a part of free will. It's just negative. And if it's going to destroy life on other worlds and parallel dimensions in the hundreds of billions that people on Earth are too dumbed down and too ignorant to know exist, so they go ahead and have a nuclear war and it harms them, we don't have that right. We don't have the right to go out in space and project all of our petty little suppressed consciousness and fear and terror out in the universe. Because they're not going to allow it. This universe, this solar system we live in is quarantined. We are not going to ever be allowed to play among the stars and step up to bat like other worlds have been given this technology freely until the population on this planet, hidden otherwise, grows up and returns to being who they really are. And they're capable of it. If that weren't true, nobody would waste their time with anything on this planet. Furthermore, there are beings on this planet right now that don't even know they're not a body, that once had the highest form of creative potential in the universe to contribute. And they've been dumbed down to forget it completely. One scenario or another out there before they ended up here. People don't realize what the history of this planet really is. Or really was. It goes back more than 50, 55 million years since the dinosaurs were made extinct. 65 million years, really. When human beings and other races that developed out there were brought here in one scenario or another. Some left behind as slaves, some survived, most died. Poles flip, it's recolonized under treaty. If you catch my drift, you begin to understand Earth's real history. Time of Lemuria, some people have heard about it. Destroyed 100,000 years ago when the magnetic and poles physically flipped on this planet through an event that's cyclic in our solar system. Created from the destruction of a world that created this imbalance that was blown apart from one bomb brought by a tyrant or inspired by beings on the planet to use against their will. And it is now an asteroid field circling in the orbit of a planet between Mars and Jupiter. Scientists say, I don't know how it got there. It's failed planets, the sun, I don't know, something. Basically, twice the distance between Mars and Jupiter than where the asteroid field is, where a planet was, than any other planet. Planets go around the sun at, what, 55,000 miles an hour or something, or more? You blow it up, it's already in a gravitational field of momentum. And it'll stretch out into an asteroid field and start circling the planet. Some will get out of that orbit, crash into the atmosphere of Mars and destroy it, which happened. Some may have gotten to Earth. It's quite a big explosion. Most of them were generally brought back into line of that field of energy and momentum between centripetal and centrifugal forces from the sun. But it was blown up. And the good guys did nothing to prevent it when they could have then. Now that's bit them in the rear end ever since in one way or another, because everything is connected. So one of the reasons beings from other worlds are willing to help this place out now in a way that people will not have the right to use evil and fear and terror and domination and manipulation and lies on their people anymore, because it's going to be removed from them. whether they like it or not, because they're not operating under true free will. They're operating under subconscious, artificially implanted, misdirecting, terrorizing programs that were put in them misusing extraterrestrial technology without their being aware of it. That's simple. You can't expect a planet of people, hidden, classified, or otherwise, to make correct decisions when they don't remember who the hell they are in the first place. That's not free will. They're going to make mistakes, and they're going to keep making terrible mistakes in decision, and they're going to blow this place up or ruin it some other way. People from other worlds know this very well. It's not new to them. Think about it. How many ships would it take from 450 to 500 million spacefaring inhabited planets in an organization in just 1/4 of our Milky Way galaxy to solve this riddle of Earth, when all 7.5 billion people on it don't even know who they are? You're going to leave them to push the button on nuclear bombs because they've got free will? I don't think so. Oh, heck no. As it was, they didn't interfere when they dropped bombs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
I know.
Country to actually use nuclear weapons on civilians. That was Truman's misdirected thinking at the time. He didn't really have the choice he thought he had. So who would want us to do that? Ask yourself. Would the good guys, ETs out there, want us to do that, or would the bad guy ETs want us to do that?
Gee, that's a tough answer.
So, people, I suppose, when I do this with you, it's telepathic. It's not psychic. I'm not putting down psychics. Nobody needs to get pissed. It's just that they work with the 4 lower dimensions of time and space. It's unreliable because sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. It swings like a wave from positive to negative through those dimensions, from positive to negative, that are used to build them. When you go into telepathy and higher forms of communication, it works with energies that exist beyond the void, in an area and field of higher realities that don't work with positive and negative energies, and they don't have time and space in them at all. If you want to change something down here, you got to create it up there and then bring it down here to change matter. And you got to get beings who run the mechanics of creation, the galaxies, the stars, the suns, the planets, all holding in place, spinning, the doorways between dimensions and all that. There are such beings who run the mechanics of creation. Silent mentors, silent ones, you've got to get them on board to change anything. You want to stop the polar flips of a planet permanently, you got to get their help. And they've got to have the consciousness to want to do it. That occurred recently for this planet. A couple of years ago, the planet's poles were tipping 8 degrees. They were about ready to flip. Suddenly, they went back to where they were in 1500. It was even in the news. Not that anybody understood it.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
So, no polar flips anymore. That's never been done before on a planetary scale. It's kind of like people cleaning up the mess for not acting when they should have, so to speak. I don't mean people from Earth, even though I reiterate that people from Earth are not from Earth. Human beings didn't evolve here. Well, let's take people on a little journey before this gets to be 19 hours long.
Okay.
Whoever's listening, for how many there are, for our little efforts here, you imagine all your fears and concerns you have for yourself, your family, money, people, age, death, life, qubits, bark from a tree with ink on it, pressed into paper we call money, any of that stuff. North Korea, Iran, and all that stuff, nuclear war, put it aside of free will, because you can, simply by exercising your faculty of free will properly, which you can do despite what the implants are in there subconsciously in you, because they've been shut off in the listeners for some time, whether they know it or not. Then you put it aside like in a computer disk or in a magazine, or imagine it, stored somewhere on the carpet, in the background, on a shelf, whatever. Because you are a being, not a body, and you're about to go on a journey. First, we're going to put the body in the trance state we call sleep. All of you do it at night when you put the body to bed. Consider that you're all actually experts at putting bodies in the trance state we call sleep, so you can leave it and go on adventures, what you call dreams. Dreams do not occur in the brain. They got that all wrong. That's not where dreams happen. The brain is not a dreamer. It's a device. It's a multi-billion circuited neuron center to run the body and its complexities by a being, pushing buttons, mainly the rods and cones in the pineal gland in the center of the brain. It gets in and out of bodies through that doorway, most often. Go out the top of the head or be behind the head, or so at night, when the body drifts off, most people grow up identifying with the body going to sleep, and they go unconscious as a being through the misuse of their imagination, without realizing that's what they're doing, of course. And then sometimes they'll have a vivid dream and bring it back, and gee, I was flying in a body in the astral plane, looping around under waterfalls and flying through the sky, and then I woke up and gee, that was a neat dream. Too bad it just happened in my brain and I made it up. That's an implant talking. No, you didn't. You're actually there doing it in another reality of higher matter where you can do such things effortlessly. And you bring back the awareness of it to the body in the morning. So you see, it behooves people to discover how to rehabilitate themselves, even on a planet like Earth, to be able to remember that they are a being that is not the body and can move it around the multidimensional universe. Because it isn't limited by the speed of light, black holes, gravity wells, supernovas, nuclear bombs, or anything else. It is made of an energy that is not nuclear, as people understand it on Earth. So then imagine someone you love and respect, you're grateful they are in your life. It could be a person, place, or thing, but it needs to be something that when you first imagine it, you smile, just because you're really grateful for that, whatever it is being in your life. And that will begin a process that opens a door in the pineal gland. And what it's doing is it's making a direct connection between you, the Atma or soul, that has a white core like a sun, has a structure, and it's linked to the pineal gland of that body. And you are above your body looking down on it. This is easy. Not complicated, not difficult, not some esoteric discipline that takes 20 years to learn. Imagine that you are standing by a waterfall with a snow-capped mountain range in the background, green grass field, and a nice lazy river winding around with tall eucalyptus trees along the embankment on Earth somewhere. We won't get too exotic at this point. People do this and call it daydreaming and imagine everything all the time, don't realize what they're actually doing because they were never taught this growing up. They're actually looking at that reality they're imagining somewhere. It's not the physical eyes that's doing it or the brain. It is the spherical Atma looking into that reality, which it has the capability to do, while the body is in the trance state called sleep with the eyes closed. In that case, the eyes are off. They're not on. How are you going to see anything? Not with the physical eyes, not from the brain. There's no light coming into the eyes to the brain. Well, I'm just making it up from my memory cells. No, you're not. If they detect REM sleep or dream sleep and the eyes are fluttering, and you're in a sleep, they think the brain is imagining something, but this is not true. That's just you out of the body having the experiencing, trying to feed that memory as a recording back into the brain somewhere. Store it. Or store it in the electromagnetic field that surrounds the human body that you emanate from the spherical you hovering above it. Put it in there somewhere, one of the colors. It's like a computer. but it isn't the person pushing the buttons on the computer. Computers don't do a damn thing if you don't push the keys. I'm going to begin these tones I send out, generally 12, sometimes more, which represents each interdimensional major division in the grand multidimensional universe. Physical, astral, causal, mental, etheric, the void, the Atma plane, the first major plane above the void that has pure positive energy in it and works with nothing of any negative nature and is not created out of time and space and doesn't work in the laws of time and space at all. So we work from there in awareness to begin to bring a change down here. It's the only way it can be done. When I do these tones, you're going to find your body going in the trance state we call sleep, perfectly safe, protected, not vulnerable to any negative energy or frequency whatsoever. There's a field of energy around it that protects it, comes from the Atma hovering above it. You do it every night anyway, so you might as well do it now, except be conscious for the journey while the body is in that trance state we call sleep. I'll begin the tones now. Enough preparation. What the Atma doesn't realize in running bodies on Earth today for most people, the great majority of the population, certainly, is that they're running physical forms of higher molecular matter in different dimensions simultaneously as a single being, not just the body they have on Earth. If they want to wake up their higher IQ and faculties and higher abilities to do things that they once had, they need to become aware of what they are in the astral plane, causal and mental and etheric, in bodies that are made of matter relative to those dimensions. They don't go outside of those dimensions. They live lives there like you have here. And you as a spherical form hovering above that body, wherever it is, listening to the show, is running all of them. Getting those so-called higher selves to be aware of each other and help you here is another matter. People assume their higher self is helping them. But if you look at the condition of this world, you realize they are not. So this isn't just about solving problems on Earth. It's about solving problems in other realities where the beings are not doing what they're supposed to be doing to be a trusted co-creator with that source. That's part of the new ray, a new kind of consciousness that is woven as a sound and light feature, a luminous energy in the omnipresent first energy behind all creation and supporting it. That is a neutral energy. It sustains and supports all beings and all life and all matter in a reciprocal, co-creative manner. That means what you put into it with your imagination, which is not made up in the brain of a body, it responds co-creatively, reciprocally to what you put in it, good or bad. So you see, it's imperative that beings use their imagination to only create that which is of uplifting benefit for all life. And for this to work, it has to be respectful of all life everywhere. Off planet, other worlds, other dimensions, higher dimensions. There's no shortcut for this whatsoever. If people want to be divine in nature, as they call it on Earth, they have to be able to be a god or goddess playing amongst the great one prime creator. Because they're made of exactly the same energy as it. Identical, 100%. Smaller scale, of course, but still has the same potential to create new ways of doing things. Be above the atmosphere, wherever you are, daytime or night, floating in space as a sphere of light. And I'll describe for you what Atma or soul looks like. Atma is what beings, the most advanced races from the stars and other dimensions and higher dimensions, call soul. In other words, we call it soul, they call it Atma. Let's get that straight. It has a white core. 3 or 4 inches, for example, from it is a layer of teardrop-shaped self-luminous lights, each one of which is a higher faculty. Then there's another layer. It goes from white to yellow to red, to orange to red to green to blue, to violet to lavender, and then there's a gold energy field being emitted by the white core that surrounds this form. All those teardrop-shaped luminous lights in all the layers are higher faculties of being, not bodies, not brains. This is what we really look like. This is how we are made in the image, so to speak, of the source, not a human body. They got that all wrong on Earth completely. No wonder they're so confused. On normal worlds, they know what this is. They raise their kids, governments encourage it, and they grow up knowing all this stuff. Second nature to them to get out of their bodies. Nothing. Flying around an anti-gravity ship, piece of cake. A normal human child on a normal world in our physical parallel dimension, out of 144 that make up the physical universe, has an IQ in 10,000 range, not even measurable on Earth. They use 100% of their brain. And their photographic memories. They're telepathic. They can speak with vocal cords. They can choose. This is very old, antiquated, ancient development in human species. Not new. Old. Which means human beings in this form were created a very long time ago. They didn't even originate in the Milky Way galaxy. People on Earth don't have any idea who or what they are. You're in the atmosphere looking down on a sphere that you also, you're a sphere in the atmosphere. You know what it looks like. There's a hum to it, a sound. And you're a sphere hovering above your physical body. And if you had lips and a face, you'd be smiling on it compassionately. You'd be sending the awareness of this experience into that brain, into that body. So when you come out of this and come back to it and open your eyes, when you do, you'll remember. Be in orbit above the planet, Earth. Oh yeah, you can do this as an atom. Remember, you're not made of matter. You're not protons and electrons and neutrons. Hydrogen bomb can't blow you up. You don't need to breathe oxygen. You can manifest a physical form here floating in space that looks like you, but it's an energy projection from the white core of your being, sphere hovering above that body form, smiling at everybody else you see here, including me and Gail. There's a friend of mine, Ambassador Turelian, is the ambassador of the Say rays. They are human. They immortalized their physical bodies in galactic history over 1 billion years ago. They were responsible for bringing human, humanoid, and other bipedal races and species into existence and up to spacefaring capability, so that Atmos could run those higher genetic forms and bring their higher faculties through the physical world, through them. And then they vanished for a very long time to see what we would all do with it. I think we all know the result of that was not a pretty picture, is not. The Say rays have recently returned into the scene to help fix a few problems. One of them, the experiment of evil in the lower dimensions. Beings like us were meant to return to the higher worlds, the higher dimensions above the void, with new ways of doing things. We're spiritual scientists. This is what we were supposed to be doing, but people have not been returning. They've been stuck down in this dualistic Maya nonsense for eons of time. In the past, the entire 4 lower dimensions and all the galaxies and universes were destroyed. The Atmos brought into the higher worlds and it was rebuilt, people put back. It's been done a number of times and it hasn't solved anything or changed anything. Because the lower dimensions were always put in place and then made to be what are called fixed and finished realities. You can't change them. You want to change the lower dimensions, at least how the rulers of those planes run them? You got to change it in the consciousness of beings above the void, get them to look at it, realize it's a failed experiment, and then get fired up to actually change it. That's what they're doing. Not just Earth, the whole lower dimensions and how the Purushas or governors of those worlds run them. We don't need to destroy a structure that works. We just need to change the consciousness of Atmos that don't remember who they are in it. So this is what's underway. I don't give a hoot who believes it or not when I share it with them. I don't care because I know what's coming. It won't matter how argumentative they want to be or what they believe. That's all going to change. And not through an Armageddon end of the world nonsense. That's just a childish way of trying to get out of all this and be saved without pulling up your britches and becoming a responsible, mature, spiritual adult. An Atma. You can't get around that. When you look at the Earth, you can see Turelians kind of hovering there. It's a bit brighter than we are, spherical. There's me next to him, there's Gail. There's some other people. Turelian centers himself and beings surround him, not because they worship him or put him on a pedestal, no. Because he acts as a focal point so we don't get scattered and we go on a journey that will be productive. Or you can go off and fly in bodies in the astral plane or go and look at balloons somewhere else and absolutely accomplish nothing getting out of your body. It's a big creation. So let's stay focused. The body's in the trance state called sleep. Sure, you can fill it if you want to. Put your attention there. There you are. But you can also be up here floating in orbit and see it with you hovering above it. And it's fine to fill both realities at one time. The Atma is not limited to focusing on one thing at a time. You can see your body, form, a sphere hovering in the atmosphere 5,000 feet above where you live. You can see it hovering up above a ceiling, looking down at your body. You can see it hovering in orbit, looking at the polar ice caps of the planet. You can see the oceans. And from up here, like a view from higher than the space shuttle, you don't see any borders between countries. It's one bunches of landmass, a big ocean, polar ice caps, one atmosphere, and all the people that live on it didn't evolve there. you don't get all the skin variations and differences in height, whether it's African American or Caucasian or Japanese or all these different races evolving out of the same pool on this planet. That's impossible. They are representative of races that evolved out among the stars in other galaxies that look like that on many world systems. And they were brought here under one scenario or another, unconscious and forced to live here or die here and reincarnate here with no memory. First rule of waking up is confront what was really done, or you can't. Okay. Let's go out. We've done this before, but let's visit a ship of friends of mine from out of town or off planet that have a mile-long cylindrical ship with a blue glow around it, hovering in the ice rings of Saturn, planet Saturn in our solar system. You can look around you hovering in orbit up here. Many of you may not recognize the other beings that surrounding Turelian, but they are considered to be adepts or master teachers. They're going with us to assist us, also to learn from what we do. Because people from Earth, when they get free, do unexpected things, new things in creativity in the universe nobody ever saw before. It's what happens when you tighten a rubber band and let it go. It goes flying into the heavens. Kind of like that, with releasing the tight knot of subconscious terror that beings are suffering from on Earth. It has to be done carefully. You're going to see a doorway, an energy world begin as a blue point of light in the void of space. You can see all the billions of stars around in every direction, hovering in orbit above the planet. You can see the barren moon. And this is a horizontal, vertical doorway that begins to open. This blue star duplicates into many and begins to spiral open like the eye of a camera into an open interdimensional doorway, like a tunnel, like a cyclone whirling, but gentle. Turelian's going to dart right into it, and we're going to follow him. You're going to feel yourself compelled. And you can see this whirling blue-violet energy, the golden tinge, whirling around you. When you come out the other side, you look back and see that vortex dwindle and closed. Now you don't even see Earth. You look in front of you and see the planet Saturn with its ice rings, because that's what they're made of. And then you can see something hovering, concealed down in the ice rings, with an electromagnetic field, an anti-gravity field, a gravitational field, surrounding the hall like a blue, thin, radiant light. It is a mile-long, blue-gray metal, slightly flattened at the top and bottom, with a bridge control window, rounded front end, and another one identical to it on the other end. It's a mile long. Around the equator, or the central section of the hall, are horizontal, vertical, oval-shaped windows. Hundreds of them. They're really about 6 feet long, 3 feet wide, and people look out through them into space from inside the ship. And you can see a series of disc-shaped, saucer-shaped craft with 3 semi-spherical half-sphere pods on the bottom and a blue glass-like dome on the top. These are the latest version of Scout-class vessels. And you can see several of them entering the ship right through the middle of the hall. They simply become transparent and move right through the matter that makes up the hull. And you can see through it and see them land next to others in a vast football field-sized hangar bay. Turelian is stopped outside the ship above the ice rings, and we're with him to look down on this spectacle. You can see the gas giant. You can see its many moons circling it. It has many. And the next instant, you're going to find yourself inside a triangular, golden lit hallway in the middle of the ship. You can feel your bare feet touching kind of a golden floor, like quartz, but transparent, luminous. This is for tactile sensation, so you feel the coolness of it on the bottom of your feet. This is the way the Atma is feeling physical sensation here. Your real physical body is back on Earth in the trance state called sleep. Here, you're manifesting an identical shape in order to experience things, both spiritual as a sense or higher reality dimensions and physical. And we're going to walk down this hallway and turn left into another triangular hallway, and it opens up into a vast chamber along a third of the side of the front end of the left side of this mile-long ship. And you can see all these vertical oval windows lining the middle of the hall, blue glass tables, white egg-shaped chairs with blue cushions, and a commander and his wife, human, standing up to greet us. They can see Torellian and us as a spherical form. If you look closely, you can see a sphere hovering above the bodies they have here. Now we're having a telepathic conversation. This is the commander and his co-commander wife of this Galactic Alliance Emerald Star cruiser. It's one of the smaller vessels. It's a mile long. It is permanently stationed in the ice rings to guard this solar system from the intrusion of tyrant races who have been escorted out of this solar system and off this planet Earth. They are permanently here. They are shifted out of phase. Weaponry and ships made in the military-industrial complex that could see this or detect it would not be able to affect it in any way. They've tried. It's invisible, except you have the equipment to detect it. We are looking at it as the Atman, and it cannot be hidden from us. So we're looking out these windows. Go up and look through one. You can see the ice chunks, some the size of a boulder, others the size of a skyscraper, floating all around the ship. It's maybe a mile thick. It's not very thick in relative terms. The planet, the gas giant's massive, much bigger than Earth. And you can see the moons. And you can see a series of 4 or 5 of these galactic scout craft, 30 feet wide, with a radiant blue light around them, approaching these windows. And if you look down through the windows, you can see them enter the hull, right through the metal structure. There are no open launch bay doors on this ship. There's no accidental access to the vacuum of space in these kinds of craft, and no need for them. You're looking and talking with this man and his wife, who appear to be 36, human, slightly larger eyes than humans on Earth have, long blonde hair, blue eyes, black hair, green eyes, the woman. You just look at them, and they're different variances. Slightly pointed ears, eyes are a bit bigger than humans, very beautiful, very high in energy. And they're talking to all of you on this journey. They're talking to Gail, welcoming you here. They say they understand that you are beginning to remember who you are, and that you've manifested a physical form for us to see what you look like. But above you, there's the Atman, and that is who we're talking with. Now you can see what they look like in their uniform, simple slip-on garments, little booties that they slip their feet through and slip their hands through the sleeves. They got a little Galactic Alliance symbol up here, has a golden pyramid hovering above the nucleus of a silver galaxy with 3 blue stars in triangular formation set above the apex. The right shoulder area, the chest area. That represents the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, as they call it, interpreted in English. They're beginning to tell you, if you listen, I will interpret what they're saying, in case you're having trouble trusting your own telepathy, that this ship is built to travel through interdimensional doorways, thousands of times faster than the speed of what people call light on Earth. And it can travel from one side of the galaxy to the other in a day. It can go to another galaxy in several days. It's not the most advanced craft there are. That's why it has a bridge control area identical on each end of the ship. That has to do with moving through opening doorways between dimensions within physical matter, 144 of them to be exact, on different molecular time rate levels, parallel dimensions. 144 before you even get to the next major division called the astral plane. These ships do not cross that barrier. But the atmas that run these ships' bodies, these forms, as atmas, they can go into the other worlds just like we can. They just can't take this ship there. Not this one anyway. This is to give you a grounded sensation on the blue lush carpet your feet are on, a tactile sensation of being aboard an extraterrestrial craft as an atma, and being recognized by fellow human beings not from Earth, that you are one and that you have a body form back on Earth. This is the way they detect you. This is the way they find out where some of their fellows disappeared at the end of a war 500,000 years ago, and they've never found them because their energy signature was masked when they were forced to be on Earth. They've now found a way to detect that. And they're beginning to find old friends, let's put it that way. So as of right now, friends from out of town, from other worlds that are kind, spiritually and technologically advanced, have found you. They know where you are. They will do research to find out all you were before you were born here, where you came from, how you were caught. I mean that literally. By whom? By what? When? How did you end up on Earth with no memory? That's not some God's will. Think that. You come to Earth, some being tells you they're God or one of its representatives. You need to go back on Earth, young lady or man, to get this living as a being worshiping God correct. But we'll wipe all your memory of all the wisdom and lives you've had so that you can go to Earth and try to get it right. What? How can you get anything right if you don't have faculties of the higher nature from the Atma that you are and all the lives you ever lived at your disposal to get things right? Well, you can't, obviously. And more mistakes are made. They put you under the law of physics. Every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. This includes emotions and thoughts, anything you imagine. The energy coming from these beings and Torellian and some of the master teachers who I know are here is encouraging all of you to have the courage to step forward and start to use your higher faculties to end this nonsense of tyrant suppression subconsciously implanted in you. They were terrorizing images of death and torture and domination by an alien race, put in you and told this will happen to you again if you ever remember, and then you're stuck in a body on Earth. Is it any wonder people struggle trying to remember? They're frightened to death of it. What people need to realize is they're getting the support from others to do exactly that in a safe way. Won't harm your physical body. You won't relive the experience. You may relive the memory under the right conditions. But that's just making a subconscious negative program that influences your nervous system and decision-making on Earth to become nothing more than a memory. And then it cannot influence you that way anymore. That's why we're on this ship. This ship of scientists and other people are experts in the field of the removal of implant misused technology on beings. They remove this from the energy field that's transparent that surrounds the Atma, not the body. And they do it in a white leather chair in a huge oval room in the center of this ship. That takes a bit of a confront, so we're not going there tonight. Give thanks to these people who are friendly human beings from other worlds. Tell them you give them permission to help you at night of your own true free will. to move forward, to recover all that was taken from you long ago without your consent or awareness. And they will help you. See yourself hovering with Torellian above this ship, looking down on it where we first started. Then suddenly find yourself above Earth, looking down on the polar ice caps in orbit around Torellian and myself. There's Gail, there's you. You can see yourself as a sphere of light, both here and simultaneously, hovering in the atmosphere above where you live. And you can see yourself hovering above your physical body, smiling, sending this memory into the brain and pineal gland, physical aura of your body. This overrides the subconscious influences, while the hue is being utilized, shuts them off. And then, when you're ready, open your eyes. You turn on your microphone on Zoom.
I forgot I shut it off.
Okay, we're going to do this for a little while. I would go much deeper, as you know, and can. But I want people who first hear this to get grounded with the idea that, one, they're not a body, and two, they're multidimensional in capability, and three, that they can go places while the body's in the trance state called sleep and experience things they were never told they could ever do growing up on this planet. But they can. They just need to be told it, remember it, kind of get a grasp on it, and then over time get confident with it again, including telepathy. Because telepathy is a pure form of communication that exists between atmas, not matter bodies. It cannot be affected by tyrants or technologies or bombs or ray guns or scalar waves or radio signals or satellites or anything else. Unless the atma itself believes it can. Then it opens itself to it and co-creates being affected by such things, if you catch my drift. Fear will connect you to negative things. Drop it like a lead brick. Just don't give it any energy when it comes up. Go into the hue. As soon as you feel it, and this is important, send out the hue to all the tyrants you think might be doing it to you for their good. Do the opposite of what they want you to do. Turn it around on them, and it's mirrored back into their court. And then those people will lose agents. And the people who gave them the orders will stop doing it, and so forth. So they end up defeating themselves the more they try to do this kind of thing. But we have to do our part in sending something that's beneficial them from an attack to benefit them, the opposite of what you think you should do, so that they can stop being motivated subconsciously to be tyrants. Then we'll solve this problem. So that's how that works, Gail. There are, of course, vast numbers of depths and journeys we can take to other worlds, to other realities, to higher worlds, to the astral, causal, mental, etheric, into the void, across the void, into the Atma plane, first plane in the upper worlds, into the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, where new creations are being tested to change these lower worlds now as we speak, in a realm that was created between the fifth and sixth dimensions above the void that never existed before in all of eternity, past about 7.5 Earth years ago. It's one of the reasons that things like abductions by little grays was stopped here on this planet. People are not being told it yet, but that isn't going on anymore. So you see, I'm not worried about the future of the planet. I'm concerned about how we get people who don't even remember who they are to begin to accept responsibility for being an atma, not a body. Step up to bat. Start playing in the universe again like we're meant to. I hope, well, I know that'll be a benefit to some of your listeners and to you. And it is to me too, of course.
That was a great journey. I enjoyed it a great deal.
I will stop this recording so we finally have an end to it. It'll be a long one.